Hey all, and welcome to Shadow Space, and we're commenting on another BCP video. This one is called Liberal Media Reporters Panic as Secret Service Smokes Lunatic Assassin Outside White House. Yes, we had another attempt. This was uploaded May 23rd. This is being recorded May 24th, and link is in the description.
That President Trump has said a deal is close.
That is an umbrella,
only for
okay.
the two sides to remain far apart.
Oh.
Republican support on Capitol Hill
Yeah, that's...
is weakening.
Oh. The noose that is my microphone is not conducive to this situation. It's normalized now. It's normal. People throw pipe bombs outside of people's houses. This is fine. This is just another day in the good old US of A. Shouldn't run that way. Yeah, that's... One person running away from where the shooting was. Yeah, guys.
What is that?
Sounds like fire.
Has no idea. What station is she from? I can't see.
But this obviously comes just a couple of weeks after a shooting at the White House correspondence.
Boy. So,
Moving on.
talk about what
Doesn't
appears to
matter.
be another failed assassination attempt against the president. Unfortunately, this has become normalized in this country, right? We're seeing stories like this almost every few weeks now.
No, I do not watch these ahead of time.
And it really is a damn shame that we've gotten to this point where this stuff has become normalized. But
Because these shootings, school shootings, like, it all just happens. No one cares. It's the idea that anyone actually cares at all about any of the violence that happens in this country is laughably pathetic.
I personally blame the left. I blame the assassination culture that has become very prevalent in this country. And because of that, you're starting to see more and more of this, especially against President Trump. Okay?
Yeah,
or
well,
people
he
on
is
the right.
head fascist. He is Adolf Hitler. If you were going to kill anyone, he would be the one to get.
Okay, conservatives, Trump supporters, you're seeing a whole lot of this. And today, we got to talk about what appears to be another failed assassination attempt against the president. As this individual that you see on the screen here, named Nasir Best, was smoked by Secret Service outside of the White House as he was trying to enter. Okay, apparently he took out his firearm and started open firing, and he got smoked very quickly. Take a look.
Tommy, this is what always happens when we have something like this. I always start to check in on the security situation at the White House, but this is what happened around 6 o'clock this evening. I'm told that a gunman came up near the White House on the west side, what is described to me as Gate 17. This is kind of near 14th Street on the west side of the White House, and came up and brandished some sort of a pistol. We don't know what type of pistol it was, but he then fired toward the White House.
Do you know what's really amazing is that these last two attempts have not had any sort of rifle, have not had an AR style rifle. They've been handguns, and the last guy had a shotgun and knives. Where are these deadly assault weapons that they're talking about? Where did they all suddenly disappear, and they aren't using them anymore? It's like just banning assault weapons doesn't do anything. It's like if you ban one kind of weapon, they will just find another kind of weapon to use. Huh. Weird.
And they apparently took the gunman down. Now, sometime in this gunfire exchange, a civilian on the street was struck by this gunfire, and we do not know the condition of that person right now. But the important thing to know is that the gunman who came up with the pistol and was taken down by the Secret Service, and we don't know his condition right now, but he never got inside the perimeter of the White
So,
House. And
at this point, there are 2 people who have been killed by ICE. There have been at least 3 people who have been killed by civilians. There is now this person, I guess technically 4. There was the guy who got killed during the first assassination attempt against Trump. Oh boy, did I really lose it that quickly? There's that guy. There's this person. And there were the 2 migrants that got killed in the back of that one ICE van. That was by just some random guy. I don't even know if they actually caught the guy who killed the migrants that were in the back of the car.
According to a senior administration official with direct knowledge of what went down at the White House this afternoon. This was right around 6 o'clock.
If you're keeping score, the people have killed far more people and are causing far more chaos than ICE are doing on a bad day.
Eastern time.
So, Chad, if I'm hearing what you said correctly, this was somebody who was just firing in the dark.
If you are causing chaos because they are causing chaos, then you are being just as destructive to the community as they are.
Direction of the White House?
It was something that the Secret Service obviously perceived as a threat. Obviously, we're told that gunfire apparently was directed toward the White House. If you get toward the west side of the White House, and we're trying to figure out precisely where this was, you have the old executive office building, now called the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, which is kind of a big complex if you're working from west to east toward the White House. So we know that he was firing in the direction of the White House, and this is the preliminary report from someone who's very senior and would have direct knowledge of this information. Again, a lot of people in town. There was one source that had, questioned me earlier, even before we had.
What would being a senior matter? If they didn't actually see it, they wouldn't necessarily have any better idea of what happened than anyone else, would they?
This information.
Or does seniority have anything to do with it?
Motorcyclists in town for the Memorial Day events. They always come for this time, and people thought it might have been, motorcycles backfiring or something like that. There's quite a cacophony of that. But this is clearly
there were quite a few shots fired. That was quite
at the direction of the White House. And the president, of course, is at the White House today.
Yeah, so the timing of all this is very interesting, right? Because the president is at the White House, as stated in the news report. He's also on the verge of reaching some type of agreement to eventually one day come to an agreement or a deal with Iran. We're going to see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Probably not.
the timing of this is fascinating because the president, again, is on the verge of some type of major breakthrough with Iran. And then some radicalized lunatic pulls up and starts open firing. We're seeing a whole lot of this in this country, and it really is something that we have to have a real conversation about, which is why is it that we continue to see these attempts on the president's life? Okay, because clearly that's what's happening, right? That's what's happening. I don't remember this many assassination attempts when Biden was in office. I don't.
Nope.
Right? I don't.
I don't either.
For those on the left who want to continuously claim
and yet,
that
supposedly, during Biden's administration was like one of the times when there was the most right-wing hate-based violence ever in the entire history of the country.
Political violence is happening
it's
on
like
both sides.
The
right?
only way that you justify that answer is by only looking at January 6th and saying, yes, this is the example.
It's a big problem on both sides. They love to try to both sides stuff, right? When Democrats are responsible for the cause of our problems, they love to try to both sides it, right? When it becomes obvious, okay? They either do that or they just say, well, no, it's actually a right-wing problem, right? White supremacists are the main issue when it comes to domestic terrorism in this country. And it's simply not true. Ultimately,
but that's what they figured out during the Biden administration, don't you know, is that white supremacy is going to be the largest barrier to this the United States' progress forward into the future for the next 10 years.
The main issue is radicalization. Now, I don't know if this guy was radicalized in the sense that he was radicalized by the liberal media or that he was a radicalized liberal.
No,
Or
we won't know until they actually go digging through his stuff and see
his political
what exactly
viewpoints.
they
We don't
find.
know that yet. But what we do know, apparently, is that this guy was known by the Secret Service as somebody who was mentally unwell. So we do have the narrative coming out here, okay? Because certainly, from the looks of this guy, he doesn't fit the narrative that, you know, the media would like to see. So now they're pushing out a narrative of, well, see, he was mentally unwell. Okay, now we're going to see, you know, if there's any more information that comes out about his actual political viewpoints or the actual motivations behind, you know, what he did. But I personally believe that it's obvious, okay, at this point, when you continue to see this stuff over and over and over again.
I mean, what color is his skin? What am I supposed to assume? Black is synonymous with Democrat. What could I possibly take from this picture other than this person is a Democrat and the reason that they did it is because they hate Donald Trump?
I don't have to guess, right? We just saw what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. These lunatics are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. So without further ado, let's actually learn a little bit more about this individual.
And they don't care.
Pay attention to how
They are on the right side of history, and that means that there is nothing that they can't do that isn't justified.
Liberal media refuses to show what the suspect looks like for obvious reasons, right? And again, they're quickly running with the, he was mentally unstable. He was an insane person. They're running with that almost out the gate, right? Instead of questioning the actual motives and why he did this, clearly targeting the White House while Trump is at the White House. Again, I just find this narrative that they're pushing out the gate to be very fascinating. So without further ado, let's get into it.
You saw it with the attempt at the ballroom, where a lot of the liberal representation that was in the room didn't really focus on what was happening. They focused more on the emotional state of the people in the room. They didn't really talk about what happened. They didn't really know what happened.
Welcome back, everyone. We continue to follow the breaking news out of Washington, D.C. It is 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're getting some new details about the shooting that took place on the corner of 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue at about 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's cross over now to our senior law enforcement correspondent, Mark Santillo, has more details. Mark, what have you learned?
And we just, from two sources, briefed on the incident as well as an internal law enforcement document. We know now that the suspect is Nasir Best, who is transported to George Washington Hospital. As his Secret Service said, he has passed away. The suspect previously approached the White House. There was interaction in the reported enforcement.
Sorry.
And we just, from two sources, briefed on the incident as well as an internal law enforcement document. We know now that the suspect is Nasir Best, who is transported to George Washington Hospital. As his Secret Service said, he has passed away. The suspect previously approached the White House. There was interaction in the past between the suspect and law enforcement. In June of 2025, there was an order for him to stay away from the White House. That incident
Soft on crime.
In June of 2025, from an internal
just
law
give him a slap on the wrist and you just
to sources,
wave him on.
July last summer near the White House. An officer in police uniform, full police uniform, was working at a pedestrian access control post at the White House when he observed Best, the suspect, walk into a restricted area by using the exit turnstile lane that was located at the post. And apparently that restricted area had multiple signs there, Eamon, stating, "Do not enter, exit only, police line, do not cross, pass holders and appointments only." Again, this was near the White House area. The suspect was immediately told to stop. The suspect did not listen to the verbal commands from the officer, did not stop, and continued to go further into the restricted area. The suspect was arrested. According to multiple sources, the suspect had no prior arrests at that time. The suspect claimed he was Jesus Christ and he wanted to, quote, get arrested. The suspect has a history of mental health issues. Again, suspect known to United States Secret Service for walking around the White House area complex, inquiring how to gain access, and was taken into custody last year. Again, the suspect being named as Nasir Best. We know tonight, just after 6 o'clock, President Trump was in the White House. That's when law enforcement sources say Best walked.
I mean, what do you do with someone like this? Thought they were Jesus. Like,
Up to that checkpoint with a bag, took a handgun out of that bag, opened fire on Secret Service officers who returned fire, killing Best. Best was rushed to the hospital, died at the hospital at George Washington Hospital there in D.C.
I can't remember a story in the Bible where Jesus went out and flat out killed someone.
And they're trying to gather more information at this time. You're taking a look at that video on
Maybe
the
he
side
has
of
a
your
different
screen, left
Bible.
side of your screen.
I don't
Those
know.
evidence markers, it appears several rounds were fired. Rob would be able to speak to this much more than me, but you see all of those orange cones, those evidence markers on the ground there. It appears multiple rounds were fired in a very busy portion of Washington, D.C., near the White House there. But again,
I mean, you heard those clips. That was quite the exchange.
Being identified from two sources, 21-year-old Nasir Best. He was transported to the hospital.
The fact that only one other person got hit with bullets during this is rather
law enforcement says he
fortunate.
opened fire on Secret Service officers. Secret Service officers returned fire. Best has died. The 21-year-old suspect has died. He was known to the Secret Service. He was taken into custody last year. When he entered an area that was off limits, taken into custody. Again, law enforcement sources say he has a history of mental health issues. They are now trying to gather more information if Best was speaking to anybody about what he was planning to do this evening, if he has any connections, if he talked to anyone else. So a lot of work happening behind the scenes right now. Again, you heard Tom and Rob both say law enforcement will be looking at that weapon, at that handgun that Best allegedly had in his bag. They'll see if that was used in any other crimes, where that was purchased, how he may have gotten to the area. So a lot of work happening right now. But we know this suspect, Nasir Best, 21 years old, has died. Best was known to the Secret Service, was known in that area near the White House, was taken into custody before, and this investigation at this point is continuing.
Great.
Yeah. So you've seen that, you heard that. You have an individual who clearly has been thinking about this for a long time, right? Because he was previously known to the Secret Service for walking around the White House inquiring how to get in. So this seems to be premeditated. Okay. They're also claiming that he was mentally disturbed, right? That he was somebody who may have not been very stable upstairs. Again, I find this narrative to be convenient because it's a distraction from what the actual motives were behind this. But we're going to see. Okay. Regardless,
I mean,
this is something that
a lot of these people have manifestos, which is
I'm sick and tired of covering these stories about potential assassinations against the president. I've never had to cover this topic as much as I've covered it since the first major assassination attempt against the president. Yeah, I mean, there is a night and day difference between what we're saying, the political violence that we're seeing in this country happening under President Trump from Democrats and liberals and leftists than what we saw under Joe Biden, right? When Joe Biden was in office, we weren't seeing all of this, right? I was not covering potential assassination attempts against the president or shootings in the vicinity of the president. I was not covering stories like that much, right? When Biden was in office, I can't even think of any story off the top of my head that has come even close to the stories that we covered since Trump has been in office. I mean, really since 2024, right? Since
it wasn't right wing. It was people on university campuses who were barring Jewish students from entering the building because they were protesting Palestine. It was BLM. Like,
And I think it really shows you where the actual domestic terrorism in this country is coming from. If you continue to see the same thing over and over and over again, and the same people are the targets, right, then that should tell you something. It's time to have a real conversation.
I mean,
about
you almost can't even look at the people who are doing it. You have to look at the people who are being targeted. Democrats aren't being targeted. Not as publicly, not as overtly.
these individuals being radicalized by the rhetoric of the Democrat Party and the mainstream liberal media. So as of right now, they're trying to avoid having that conversation because they're running with the mental illness narrative. But we're going to see more information is going to come out about this guy, and we're going to learn what his actual motives were. And I just wouldn't be surprised if, once again, this is an attempt on the president's life. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and
You said it at the beginning that it's normal now. This is how they solve their problems, with shaming, which they say that you're not supposed to do, or violence, which they say that you're not supposed to do. They engage in the exact same behavior that they say that they moralize is completely inappropriate behavior that you should never engage in. And yet it's the only solution that they can think of to solve their problems. Look at Ukraine. You don't have to look any further than Ukraine. What was their solution to Ukraine? Was it bringing Putin to the table and discussing some sort of diplomatic solution to Ukraine? No. It was give him more guns and more missiles and just blow up Russia. It was Russian genocide. That was their solution. Sitting here talking about, well, I don't condone political violence. Of course you do. Are you kidding? Of course you do. How is Ukraine defending its sovereignty from Russia not political violence? That is the epitome of political violence. That is them using violence to protect their political autonomy. It makes no sense. It's just another thing in a long list of things that make absolutely no sense. They want it to happen. Mamdani, 2 pipe bombs, went outside, right outside of his house. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. It's fine to him. The fact that this is happening means nothing. Who cares? They want it to happen. I don't know. If they didn't want it to happen, you would think that they would do things so that it didn't happen. I